You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 38. Today we are chatting with Lauren Kerr of Life Above Zero, and boy, do we get deep into mindsets. Your mindset can actually set you up for success or cause you to attract the wrong situations or people in your life. It's so important for us then to understand exactly what a healthy mindset is and how we can create one. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea and maybe a notebook to write down some of the steps that Lauren shares, and let's dive on in. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, hopeful romantic and founder of Project Love. I found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our important relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down, tune in, and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real-life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, friends. Today I am joined by the lovely Lauren Kerr, a life and mindset coach, author, blogger, speaker, and mentor. She does it all. We are chatting about how we can stop living in survival mode, which I know we can all relate to, how our mindsets can impact the type of experiences and people that we attract into our lives, but also how we can overcome the blocks that prevent us from having a healthier mindset. So welcome, Lauren. I am so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story and advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. It's so good to be here. A little bit about me. So I grew up in I don't know if you'd call it small, but a country town called Albury on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. And I always had a passion for helping people. I wasn't quite sure what that would look like. I was kind of drawn to do nursing. And then after my first placement on a mental health ward, I kind of pivoted and then decided I wanted to study psychology. So I applied for a scholarship, and then next thing I knew, I was living on the Gold Coast studying psychology at Griffith University, and doing my honours degree there. I think from that, I just enjoyed it. I didn't know what I wanted to do after my studies. I just really enjoyed learning about us as people, like what makes us tick, why we do the things that we do. There's got to be some method to the madness. And from there, after my degree, I found myself working in child protection, which was something I was passionate about. Like I really enjoyed making meaningful change and working with vulnerable families to try help them keep their kids in the home so they didn't have to be taken into child safety. But as much as I enjoyed the work, it was emotionally heavy and I really struggled to keep work at work. So something was tugging at me to just move on and do something different. And I think within my heart of hearts, I knew that I was meant to do something else, but it was the security of that. It was the fear of the unknown. But from there, I kind of took a leap and I started my own life coaching practice, which is what I've been doing for the last 4 years now, is coaching women in health. We've got an online holistic health program, but also mentoring women in business. And I think over the last 4 years, I've just realized like how many people out there are craving more fulfillment, and they're craving clarity. And despite us being overwhelmed, a lot of us are feeling unfulfilled, like we're not feeling like we're living our truth. We're feeling like we're broken. We're beating ourselves up, comparing ourselves to everyone else on social media. We're like a duck on water. Like we're above the surface. We're pretending we've got our shit together, but our little feet under the water are trying to stay afloat. And so I just realized that they need to be empowered with the education around their psychology to know that they're not broken. They're actually just human, and understanding their emotions and what they mean and how to self-regulate and how to use your mindset as a way to empower you to go after what you want in life instead of it kind of taking power over you and holding you back and you getting stuck in your head. And so that's kind of where the need for the book came, because a good coach actually doesn't educate. They hold space for you and ask really great questions. So I thought it'd be a nice way to create a resource that people could take themselves through at their own pace and be empowered to start living their own life above zero.
Definitely. I want to talk about this book, but we'll save that towards the end. So becoming a coach, What was
Yes.
that experience like? Did you take coaching courses or did you just kind of jump in and learn as you went? Did you do one-on-ones or how did you start a business as a coach?
Yeah, for sure. So I obviously already knew a lot on how to work with people from my psychology degree. And then working in child protection, I was already doing that work as a child safety officer. Like you're working with families, you're helping them through their self-limiting beliefs, you're helping them make meaningful change, you're engaging them with services, you're their accountability buddy. So I kind of got a bit of a taste for it that way, but I wanted to do it more future focused, like not working with families in crises and not working with people in trauma, working with people who are already healthy, but wanting to strive for more, like life above the baseline, which is a life above zero, which is actually a term coined in positive psychology, which is more about strength-based practice. So when I got my job working in child protection, because I got a graduate position, I actually got gifted with a certain amount of money I could invest. So from there, I ended up investing in an NLP course and a life coaching accreditation through the Life Coaching Academy in Australia. So I got my credentials there to become a life coach on top of my psychology degree. And then I kind of applied what I was learning with my clients and all the strategies that I was learning with my clients in child protection. But then I started taking on privates outside of that. That's when I started slowly building my business. So I did that just through, I already had a blog. So I really enjoyed blogging and sharing and creating value. So I kind of just said, hey, this is what I'm doing. This resonates. And I kind of took on some clients that way. And then I actually ended up meeting one of my best friends now, but a tribe of women who were working in the holistic health space. And together we put together a coaching program. And then I just started coaching women in the program and then mentoring women in business there, which is what I've been doing for the last 4 years. So it's been a long journey, but it's been, coaching in lots of different areas, if that makes sense.
It seems like it's happened very naturally. You kind of evolved and pivoted as you went through all those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I actually set out with an intention. I just kind of trusted opportunities as they came, and I trusted my gut and what felt good and what felt aligned with my values and my purpose and my mission, and just trusted the pull.
Awesome. So child protection, I mean, that's a heavy loaded job really in all areas. What did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before in that job?
I already know I was a very positive person. Like I'm very optimistic, and I think when you work in a profession like that, which is very heavy, and a lot of women have been in there for a long time, they are realists. So they kind of don't expect too much from families because they've learned not to from working in a system for so long. But I think I came in so starry-eyed, and something I learned about myself was that I take on everyone's problems and thought it was my issue to solve them. So I'd get really frustrated and upset and felt like I failed when other people wouldn't show up for themselves or other people wouldn't say what they were going to do for their kids, when I think that was a big learning journey as a coach as well. And just working with people in that space is that you can educate people. What's that saying? You can't take a horse to water. I don't know what that one is.
Yeah.
I forget what it is, but I can't make people do anything. I can create a space and I can care for them and I can provide all the services. But at the end of the day, you've really got to show up for yourself. And I think I learned about myself is that I realized I couldn't save everyone. And that was really heartbreaking.
That's a tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's so true. You can't teach anybody to do anything. They have to do it themselves, but you can give them the tools that they need in order to do it. It's just up to them to actually use it.
Yeah, and they've got to want to do it. It doesn't mean they're not always. Sometimes it's about timing. Sometimes they don't have the self-worth, the self-belief, or the support around them. And you've just got to do your best. And sometimes that's not enough. But I think a lot of people are just looking for the support and someone to believe in them. So if you can be that person and be patient, but doesn't fall on you if they show up or if they don't.
It takes a strong person to be in that type of environment for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about mindset because that's such an important thing. I think people really don't put enough focus on mindset and how much it can impact your life in a good way or a bad way. So I kind of want to learn about what your journey or your experience has been with mindset. Did you ever come across limiting beliefs that you had to overcome, or did you ever go through periods of having a negative mindset that you had to change?
Yeah, I And I think this is a big part of my mission and my message is that everyone does. It's you're not broken for having self-limiting beliefs or feeling like you're feeling challenged or you're not feeling happy and elated and excited. You're human. That's the way your brain is wired. It's like happiness and sadness are the two sides of the same coin. Like you can't be happy and elated all the time, but the trick is understanding how your brain works and how it's wired. So that way when you don't beat yourself up, you're not broken, you're not a failure. No, it's not just you. No, not because I know, especially with social media these days, where a lot of us are comparing ourselves to other people, being like, "But it looks so easy for her, and she's always winning, and she's so confident, she's got all this." But those feelings, like everyone has the feelings of self-doubt. Everyone has self-limiting beliefs. Everyone has days where they don't feel ecstatic. You're human. I think if people understand the duality in life instead of keep chasing perfection and chasing fulfillment, you're going to realize that you're not broken, you're enough. Life happens in duality, and you're going to be more kinder and compassionate with yourself, which allows you to be more kinder and compassionate to others as well.
Definitely. So what types of limiting beliefs have you experienced? Like I know with myself, I struggle a lot with the social media aspects and, the comparison game. That's one of my biggest stumbles, I guess. But what was yours?
And it's hard because I don't mean to say, I don't know how to say this, but it's not that I don't have limiting beliefs, but I just don't see them as limiting beliefs. They're just how your brain works. Like obviously I've had days where I've been like, oh, like, I don't know if I can do that, or I don't know if I can achieve that, or I'm worried what other people will think, or I'm worried that I'm going to fail, or I'm worried I'm going to embarrass myself, or I'm worried that I have those days, and those feelings are normal, but I don't tell myself that's a limiting belief, or I don't tell myself that I've got to work on that in order to get to the next stage. I'm aware that, oh, there goes my mind again trying to keep me safe, or there goes my, like, that's how your brain is worked. It's just being aware of it, but not having the understanding or the education to be like, you know what? I thank you, I hear you, but I know what I'm doing. Or thank you, I hear you, but I'm excited to do this. Or thank you, I hear you, but this is my mission. Or thank you, I hear you, but I'm going to enjoy this and I'm going to have so much fun. I'm going to regret it if I don't. So I have all those feelings that every people have. I just don't think I think it's because it's obviously helped that I've been studying this for nearly 10 years now, that I don't look at any of them and think something's broken and I have to fix that, or I have to address that in order to get to that next level. I'm just like, oh, I have the awareness of it and I accept it in its duality, but don't let it keep me from moving forward. Does that make sense?
That is such a healthy way to look at it. It kind of blew my mind a little bit because you're just completely flipping the coin and it's okay. It's like you accept it, you're aware of it, but you're not letting it take you off your path.
Yeah. So I
Right?
think that's what's happening a lot of times. A lot of women that I speak to, they're like, I can't do that. I'm nervous, or I'm scared what people are going to think of me, or like, oh my God, that's out of my comfort zone, or what if I fail, or I'm not as pretty as her. And like, yes, we all have those feelings. That's your mean girl. Some people call it your dark passenger. Or if you think about, I know those cartoons, you have the angel on your shoulder and then you have the devil. Like,
yes.
if you're thinking you're going to be happy or confident or successful when that goes away, you're never going to get there, because they never go away. Those voices will never go away. You've got to have the awareness to be like, oh, there's my brain trying to keep me safe again. Because your brain, if you could sit on the toilet and eat, sleep, work, your brain would be so happy because it wants you to take the path of least resistance. It doesn't want you to exert any energy or do things that are going to be uncomfortable. So as soon as you've got to step out of your comfort zone or be vulnerable or work hard and persist and commit and be dedicated to whatever your goal might be or whatever you're trying to pursue, that stuff's going to come up. What if you call them self-limiting beliefs, are going to come up. But you've got to have the awareness and the drive, but also the self-love and the self-kindness to be like, oh, this is so uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway and I'm going to have some fun and let's see what happens. Rather than being like, oh shit, I'm broken, nobody else feels like this, it's just me, I'm a failure, I can't do this, it's easy for everybody else. Because the truth is, it's not easy for everybody else. Everybody else experiences those feelings, but they just separate their feelings from action.
That's so interesting. I love that. That's such a good spin on it. I definitely feel like that's a healthier approach to understanding what's going on in our heads.
Yeah, I think so many of us are spending too much time up there, aren't we? We're getting
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, and then we're telling ourselves these shitty stories like, I'm not worthy and I'm broken, I'm never going to be successful. And I think and then obviously you have the layer of social media, which just makes that heightened even more when we're comparing ourselves to everyone else's highlight reels. So not only have we got our own little devil on our shoulder, but then you've got this comparison game that just makes everything even more overwhelming, that voice just gets louder. And so, yeah, I really think we have to have an open discussion. And I love that we're talking about this kind of stuff to make people feel like you're not broken, you're human, and life is in duality, and happiness and sadness are the same things. But there's definitely, obviously, there's things that you can do to feel good more of the time than you feel bad, but that's still
Mm-hmm.
conscious awareness and taking a conscious effort.
Definitely. In my head, if I'm thinking of it as a limiting belief or I have to overcome this limiting belief, it turns into this huge project, right? Like I have to journal, I have to do all these things to try to overcome this when really I just need to change my mindset around it and how I deal with it.
Yeah, you just gotta thank her. Like, give her a name. Like, what's the bitchiest of bitches you know? And give her a name when she comes up, and like, thank you. I can hear you, but not now. Bye.
See
Like,
ya.
you've got to separate yourself from her because that's not you and that's not your truth. If
Mhm.
you keep listening to her, she's going to cheat you out of some amazing things.
Definitely. So I want to hear, in your opinion, what is a healthy mindset? So some people might think just having a healthy mindset might be just thinking positively, but is that
Yeah.
just it?
No. And it's funny because I think sometimes that positivity as well is half the issue because you feel like you've got to be positive and you've got to be upbeat. And I'm a realist, and I think having a healthy mindset is just being okay with duality. It's not beating yourself up when you don't have an amazing day, but it's learning how to find fulfillment in the small things rather than always trying to pursue it. So I think there's so many workplaces I could take this. There's so much to this. I could talk about this all day. But I think having a healthy mindset first off means that you're aware of your self-talk. You're aware of your feelings, and you take control of them. You're not just reacting to life as it's happening to you, because then you're not in the driver's seat. You're just responding to whatever life is throwing to you. But if you can take control of your emotions and know that at any time you can feel any emotion. So if you're chasing, like, this is what happens with goal setting, for an example, and this, I'm just going to flip it on its head so hopefully you can understand where I'm going with this. But if you have got this goal that you're going to be happy when you make a certain amount of money, you're going to be happy when you get married, you're going to be happy when you finally retire, or you're going to be happy when your side hustle makes you a full-time income, or you're going to be happy when you go on that holiday. What happens is once you get there, happiness adapts. It's called like the treadmill of happiness, and so you want more. You need more in order to fulfill that same level of happiness, and that's why it's called the pursuit of happiness. So what you need to be able to do instead is actually start thinking about, like, those feelings are available to you now. You're not chasing those things because you need those things. You're chasing those things because you think they're going to bring you a certain feeling. So at the end of the day, we're all just chasing feelings, and those feelings and emotions are available to you at any point in any day. Like, you can find joy in a green tea. You can find your joy in giving your kids a cuddle. You can find joy in having 3 breaths and feeling the sun on your face. You can find joy writing down 3 things you're grateful for. So if you can be in control of your feelings and be really self-aware with how you're feeling in a certain moment, you can change it. And that means, like, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling stressed, instead of waiting for everything within your day to pile up on each other and then just explode and you have a mental breakdown and you're like, this sucks, like, my life, the job sucks, my partner doesn't understand, the kids are crazy, you're being reactive. And that's not a healthy mindset. But instead, if you can have the self-awareness throughout your day to be like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit stressed today, or oh, I'm not feeling that awesome today, I'm feeling a little bit like I need to be gentle with myself today. Well, that means, all right, well, I might go to work on my lunch break, I might do a meditation. And once I get home after I've put the kids to bed and I've cooked dinner, I'm going to have a bath. So instead of letting life happen to you and your emotions take control of you, you're taking control of your emotions, which then really influences how everything else in your day will pan out. So I guess a healthy mindset isn't about always being happy, and it isn't always about trying to be positive. It's about the acceptance and the awareness and the education that life is just life, and you're going to have ups and downs, but understanding how you can be in control of your emotions at any time and choose how you respond to things. So
So when we are overworked, super stressed out, we have that never ending to do list that we're always trying to tackle and most likely are not getting through when we want to. How do we change our perception around that when we're in that type of situation? I saw this post that you had on Instagram and I absolutely loved how you changed the verbiage.
I think you can change it to, yeah, like it's a lot in the verbiage you use, but changing it to instead of I have to I get to. So anytime that you're feeling in a state of lack or just some of the not so fun emotions, the easiest way to change your state is gratitude. So changing your verbiage around I have to I get to, but just just compassion towards yourself. You can only do what you can do. So look at your to-do list and look at the one or two main things that you need to do today. Like if you were to prioritize them, like what's actually going to move the needle in your business, in your relationships, like what's a priority, and eat the frog. So do the hardest thing first, get it done. And then if you can get it all done, you can. If you don't, you did your best and tomorrow's a new day.
Definitely eat the frogs. That's like the best thing. I love that. When we put so much pressure on ourselves, we're obviously always setting expectations and goals and if we're not getting there, there's always a sense of feeling like a total failure, like we've let ourselves down, we've let people in our lives down or our business down. And how do we stop that pattern? And then how do we show ourselves more compassion in those moments?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I think asking yourself some better questions. There's a thing they've found, one of the biggest predictors in success in all of life is whether you have a growth or a fixed mindset. And it's not something you're born with. You can actually improve it by focusing on asking yourself some better questions. So if you're feeling like you're a failure or you're feeling like, whatever might be coming up for you, asking yourself some better questions like, well, did I actually fail? Like, honestly, well, what did I learn from this? How did I grow from this? What can I do better from this? What did I enjoy about this? Who can I help because of this? Rather than being like, I suck, I fail, I'm never good at anything, everyone was laughing at me, that was a waste of time, I'm never doing that again. So it's all in your self-talk. So I think asking yourself some better questions and being more growth orientated really helps just flip not just your self-talk, but that will flip the energy and then therefore the actions you take afterwards as well, which actually help you start making momentum and taking small steps to not just build your confidence, but get closer towards those goals that you've set yourself. So you're not a failure and you are showing up for yourself and your dreams and what you deem important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So you've talked a little bit about the journey, and I kind of want to dive a little bit more into that. So I'm very goal oriented and I'm always looking at my next goal. As soon as I get there, what's my next goal? I don't care about anything else but getting to that point that I've set in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm missing everything in between.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how we can kind of change our perception of that as well, so that we're not just always looking at the end result, but we're focusing on the journey, which can encompass so much, including helping us grow as a person in our business, in our relationships, and all that?
I love this question. I do a whole chapter on this in my book because there's some science behind it. Science has found that you actually need that flow. So I love that you're goal oriented and very similar. And a lot of people will find if you're feeling stagnant, you're feeling lost and you're feeling confused and a bit blah, it's probably because you don't have a goal. And us as humans, we need something to strive towards. And it's not so much the destination that's going to give you joy. And I think that's what I was talking about before. If you keep just focusing on those goals, what's actually going to happen is once you achieve it, it's not going to give you the fulfillment that you're looking for. And then you're going to find yourself in a position where you're like, was all that for this? Like, is this all there is? But what you'll actually find your fulfillment from is the pursuit of the goal. Like, it's actually in the journey. And there's like a certain formula, but it's called flow. A psychologist, I don't know how to say his name. You'll have to if you just search flow on Google, it'll come up. But essentially you have to, when you're in flow, that's when you're going to find the fulfillment that you're looking for, and you'll start happily achieving rather than achieving to be happy. So I think as much as it's easier to say than do, but if you really start to, like I said earlier about finding the things that find you joy and instead of chasing a feeling that you think you're going to feel after you get that goal, start thinking about those feelings and how you can incorporate those feelings along the way and celebrate the small wins and find enjoyment in the flow of pursuing it and the the skills that you perfect and the person you grow into and the people that you meet and the journey that you go on, you'll learn to actually enjoy the journey rather than being just fixated on the destination. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. I'm gonna have to look up flow on the internet and see what that's all about.
Yeah, it's like, if I put it really simply, it's like if a challenge is way too hard for you, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to find flow. But if a
Mhm.
challenge is way too easy for you, then you get underwhelmed. You're like, oh, what? And you just get bored and you start getting distracted by other shiny objects. So us as humans, we actually find fulfillment in that flow, like in the pursuit. So it's got to be it's got to stretch you a little bit. So a lot of people, I don't know if you'll hear people say, I was so in flow. Maybe it was when they were writing a book. I know I personally found flow when I was writing my book, or when I go for a run, I find flow. Some people find it when in their profession, if they're really passionate about something you can do for hours, you don't even notice that time is going past. So I think having that awareness and the education when you're setting yourself goals, now that you know, I can't just be fixated on the goal and what happens when I get there, because I'm going to actually find myself really upset when I get there and it doesn't give me the feelings that I'm hoping it's going to give me. So you've got to find ways you can find those feelings along the process and prime yourself and educate yourself and remind yourself that, like, this is it. Like, the feelings I'm feeling right now, this is it. And I'm enjoying this. Like, I'm enjoying the person I'm growing into, and just really focus on enjoying the journey, because otherwise what will happen is, like I said, you'll get to that destination. You'll be like, did I just make all those sacrifices and put in all that time for this? Like, you'll be proud of yourself momentarily, but then it'll be fleeting, and then you're going to set yourself another goal thinking that when you get there, you're going to be happy. Goal setting, I think a lot of people have the misconception that, like I said, it's there for destination, but it's there to help you find your fulfillment in the flow process.
Mhm. And even in that process or that journey, you might end up finding something else that you want to do. You might have to pivot and then find more happiness in that journey rather than where you thought you were going.
Yeah, just definitely trusting the gut and trusting the pull and having that awareness of what's important to you in your mission. And that way, sometimes the universe conspires and it doesn't come out the way that it doesn't show up the way that you thought it would. So just being open to trusting your gut, because you'll be surprised where you can end up sometimes when you're not so fixed on the destination, but you know what you're trying to create or the experiences that you're looking for.
I couldn't agree anymore. What about when you're in a rut? So I can get in a rut sometimes when I guess maybe I'm not being challenged enough in my goals and I get kind
Yeah.
of bored and then I kind of get stuck, and I know that, some people that I know also experience that as well. So what kind of steps would you recommend in getting out of that rut?
Yeah, good question. So just like I touched on, if you don't find flow, so a goal or what you're currently doing in your work or in your relationship, so you just haven't set a goal that you're excited about, you'll find yourself in the rut. You need something that's going to stretch you, and like a little kid at Christmas that you're in a countdown for. So firstly, if you find yourself in a rut, set yourself a new goal. Secondly, a lot of people find themselves in a rut when they're setting goals that aren't aligned with their values. So they're doing things or pursuing or chasing things that they think they should. So whether they think they should do something because their parents told them they should, or they feel like because everyone on social media is doing it, or because by society they think they should do that, or that's what society deems as successful. And then you'll find that you're making all these sacrifices, or you're doing all the work, and you just feel like, is this it? I'm not happy. Or you feel like you're like in that rut, or you're feeling lost. And it's because you're setting goals that are aligning, that are extrinsically motivating, like they're being imposed from you from the outside, rather than setting goals that are intrinsically motivating, meaning that you're setting them because they align with your values and what you deem important. And it's sad because a lot of people I talk to, they don't know what's important to them. They're happily and will easily say all the things that they don't like and what doesn't bring them joy. But if I ask them, what are you passionate about? What lights you up? What makes you happy? What are your 5 highest values? They're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, well, if you don't know them, how do you expect somebody else to make you happy? Like, you need to know that formula of success. And there's some, like I said, this is what my whole book's about, so there's a chapter on it, but you can go on to Google and you can search like value test. I think DeMartini does a really awesome free one online, and it comes up with your 5 values. And if you're in a rut, do some like soul searching, just find out what your 5 values are and ask yourself, are you living in alignment with these at the moment? Are you making time and prioritizing these in your life at the moment? Because a lot of the time, if you're feeling depressed or unfulfilled, it's because you're living out someone else's values rather than honoring your own. And so if you have first off the self-awareness and you realize what they are, work out how can you make some more space for them in your life, and how can you enjoy more of that in your life, and even set little goals for each of them. So you're setting goals that align with what's important to you and who you are at the core.
Oh, that's so good. I'm definitely going to have this written down somewhere so that next time I get in a rut, I can just quickly just snap myself right out of it.
But so many of us are in that. I think a lot of us are just our lives are so full and we're so busy, but we're not taking the time to consciously just breathe and reflect and think, am I happy right now? Is this actually where I want to be? If I just kind of been pulled along where life has been taking me, rather than being empowered and being conscious aware about where I want to go. And sometimes once we take that step and take that breath, we're like, how did I get here? I don't even enjoy this. I don't enjoy the company of these people. I don't enjoy the work that I do. And it's because you haven't put yourself back in the driver's seat. So doing that little activity can kind of be a slap in the face if maybe you've been pulled off track for a little while, and it's a really good way to redirect and find your truth and start living in alignment with that.
I think even I've taken for granted how important it is to sit in silence and to give myself that space to do the inner work, or just to journal about things that I'm feeling about, or and whatnot, because I'm so used to just go, go, go all the time.
Yeah, that was my New Year's resolution too, was to have more white space, because I'm a doer. I feel you.
That's awesome. So what about the people that you surround yourself with? So this is such a big thing for me, just because I'm in that middle ground where I'm trying to align myself with a different grouping of individuals that are maybe more in line with where I am in my life at this moment. So how important do you think the people that you're surrounding yourself with are?
So important. That saying that you're a reflection of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with isn't woo-woo, it's science. And I think if you're going to commit to growing, and maybe you've become conscious of the fact that maybe you need to pivot and you need to start living your values because you haven't been, you're going to come up with some resistance, because I'm sure, and the amount of self-sabotage you're experiencing right now is a direct reflection of how much time you're spending with people who have different values. So as you grow, you've got to be okay with maybe leaving some people behind if they don't have the same values. And that doesn't mean you cut them out of your life. That's not what it's about at all. But it's just about being more conscious of spending time with people who are going the same place that you're wanting to go, or showing up in the world the way you want to show up, or spending their time doing the things that you want to spend your time doing. Because otherwise what will happen is, let's say an example that most of us can relate to is like health. So let's say a value of mine is health, and all my friends and family eat shit. They drink every weekend. They would never invest their money in going a health and wellness retreat. And so here I am, like, prepping all my food and watching all these webinars about nutrition and investing my money into like awesome health coaches. And then on the weekend, all my friends are going out to a party, and I'm like, actually, no, I don't want to do that. And they're like, that sucks. Come have fun. You only live once. La 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 la. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Who cares? And then I self-sabotage all my goals and everything that I knew was going to make me happy and that was important to me, because they're not the values of the people that I am surrounding myself with. So that's if you keep self-sabotaging, it's a really good indicator of that you need to look at the mismatch of values around you and start seeking out relationships of people that are going to make you better and call you on your shit. Because if I had friends who had the same values as me, they might say, hey, are you sure you want to go to that? You told me this is important. Is that still the truth? Like, they're going to challenge me and stretch me because they have my best interests at heart, and they're going to try help me live out my values. So you'll know, I'm sure I'm probably talking to a lot of people who are listening to this who are like, yeah, that's me at the moment. And I think just if you're feeling that resistance, just consciously put yourself in some different circles where you're going to be around people who nourish you and support you to be the best version of you, and maybe just limit your time with the people who don't. And like I said, doesn't mean you cut them out. Like, I've still got a lot of friends and family who don't have the same values as me, but I spend a lot more time and energy, and I actually take on the opinions of different people who are showing up in the world the way I want to show up and do have the same values. And I think that comes up to you and having that awareness of what your values are, and if you're experiencing self-sabotage at the moment, so you can make some changes.
how do you kind of go through your list of friends to see which ones maybe you should associate with a little bit less and things like that? Like, do you make a list? Do you like name your 5 people that are closest to you and kind of go through how they align with your goals and your values and where you are in life? Like, how do you determine which ones you kind of need to step away from a little bit? Because
I
that's such
think,
a hard process, right? Like,
yeah, I think, but it's hard if you tell yourself it's hard. But I think if you really ask yourself, you'll know. You actually know the truth. Like if you think you could write it down if you want to, but I think in your head, if you think about some of the people you're spending your time with most, ask yourself, like when you're with them, are you contracting and playing smaller? Or are they inspiring you to play bigger and live out your truth? And you can feel it. Are you like expanding and exciting and stepping into a bolder, more fuller, unapologetic, aligned version of you? Or are you with them? Are you shrinking to feel more comfortable and you feel so much lighter when you do it? And it doesn't mean that they're bad people too. It's not like you're
no,
being like,
definitely.
these are my people and these aren't, and I'm culling these people. You're just having a bit more of awareness of who's good for your soul and who's going to be your people that are going to help you really show up the way that you want to show up, and just who has different values too. And once you're aware of them, you're not going to let their opinions sway you so much.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about traumatic experiences or circumstances that people may have gone through that are maybe hindering them in their present life.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how people can, go past them or break through them and live a little bit of a better life, because it can affect it quite a bit.
Yeah. And I think first off, just a disclaimer too, a lot of the work that I do is with people who emotionally are pretty stable. A lot of people have gone through trauma. They do need intensive support. They do need to engage with a health professional. And I really recommend them to go do that with a psychologist, or if that's what they feel they need to get the closure and to get some clarity and to move forward. But just some tips that I kind of share is, first off, you're not broken. Like shit happens to good people every single day. That's life. That's a duality in it. But if you can learn how to love yourself and be gentle with yourself and understand your emotions and how to self-regulate them in a healthy way, you can move forward. And you're probably never going to be the person that you were before the trauma, and that's okay. You've evolved. You're a wiser person now. You're a more compassionate person now. You've experienced something that's going to make you feel a whole range of new emotions and probably more intensity as well. So I think some things that I try to encourage my clients to do is try to forgive where you can. Forgive the event, forgive God if you believe in God, forgive a person, whatever the trauma may have been for you. And it's not so much because they deserve it, it's because you do. Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that's going to kill your enemies. Like the only person you're hurting by holding and not letting go is you. So first, forgiveness and looking for the lessons. That comes back to that growth and fixed mindset I was talking about earlier. Like, yes, it hurt, and yes, it was probably painful, and yes, it's probably eaten up a big chunk of your life, and yes, it's probably cost you some friendships, health, whatever it might be. Own all that. There's no need to sugarcoat that. Be hurt. But what are some better questions you can ask yourself going forward? Like, what did you learn from it? How are you a better person because of it? Who can you help because of it? What was a lesson in it? If anything, did you learn something? What was the silver lining in it? Like, I promise you, even out of the most shitty, saddest, lowest points in our lives, there is always something to gain out of that, whether it's perspective, it's compassion, it's self-awareness, it's gratitude, it's the ability to help others who have gone through what you've been through. So looking for the lesson, asking yourself some better questions and having that growth mindset, forgiveness. And then just like a little psychology trick as well is changing the way you think about trauma or what's happened. So this is probably easier said than done, and you need to work with a health professional depending what your trauma has been. But like, for an example, we have these things called schemas. So if I think of a schema as like something that gets triggered when you think of a word. So if I think of the beach, maybe your schema, what triggers you is like you automatically think of sand, water, beach towels, bikinis, ice cream. So it's how one word can trigger like a whole clouds of words around it. So let's say, for an example, a trauma, I'm just going to use an example of a breakup or a marriage breakdown or something. just so you can see what I mean. But let's say there's a relationship breakdown, and usually you thought of the hurt and the pain and the nastiness and the distrust or the betrayal or whatever it might be. They're all the schemas that are happening, but you can actually choose being to be like, you know what, like that happened, but I'm putting that in a big parcel and I'm throwing it away. I'm forgiving it. It hurt. It was shit. But you know what? When this gets triggered for me, the schemas I'm going to remember is all the magical moments we had before that, and the forgiveness that I have, and all the good memories. And so when you look back on certain things, it's not with a heavy, resentful heart. It can be like acceptance that yes, it happened, but you're letting it trigger you of more positive, empowering emotions and memories. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, definitely. That was very well said. So you talked a little bit about intuition earlier, and I kind of want to dive in a little bit with that. How do you tune into your intuition? How do you build that trust knowing that you can follow that intuition?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's something that I'm still learning to master myself. But at a very base level, it's trusting your gut. And even if you don't believe in spirituality and intuition, most of us can say that they've had a nudge before, or they've trusted your gut. Like you've had something just didn't feel right. That's what your intuition is. Like a vibe wasn't right, or you just didn't think they were being honest with you. Like that's trusting the pull. If something's niggling at you, being aware of it, so that the awareness is the first step. And yeah, if you're not a spiritual person, just trusting in science. Like there's science behind your gut knows. But then secondly is, like we said earlier, white space. If your life is so full, and I think so many of us, we're uncomfortable in white space. Even when we have the first bit of silence, we fill it up with like, oh, I don't have anything to do, I'm going to put Netflix on. Or, oh, I'm not going to go for a walk, I'm going to put music in my ears. So as soon as there's white space, we fill it. So having the white space to actually just sit in stillness and quietness and tune in, whether you want to meditate, whether you want to journal. I know angel cards is something that I've started doing, and because I'm a very sciencey person, as much as I love spirituality, I also think they're a form of self-affirmations, or they're not even affirmations, they're like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that you are wanting to hear something, and then you'll read something and it just confirms what your intuition was telling you, and you take from it what you need to. But I think there are probably some ways I'd say to start if you're wanting to get stronger at reading your intuition and trusting it.
That's a great way to start. So I want to talk about this book of yours, because I know this book is coming out.
Yeah, it came out this week. So exciting.
It came out this week. Oh, that's so awesome. Congratulations. Is it available like across North America, or is it just Australia?
At the moment, it's only available on my website, but we do ship worldwide. But in the next few months, you'll see it popping up around bookstores in Australia, and you'll see it on Amazon and Audible and iTunes and all the fun stuff.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to order a copy. It's a definitely interesting book, especially the couple of chapters that you've mentioned in this episode here. I definitely want to dive into those for sure, and I'm sure the rest of them are pretty good as well.
Yeah, it definitely takes you on a journey. The way that it's written is so it puts you in the driver's seat. It gets you thinking about like what's important to you, where do you want to go, what do you need to let go of, how do you set goals that align with your values, how do you overcome self-sabotage, how do you stop caring what people think, how do you manage your emotions, how do you like leverage off the universal laws or spirituality or science or whatever you perceive that to be in order to have more support and trust the flow and the intuition, like you said. So I think everything we've spoken about in this episode's been it kind of takes you through that process so you can find that clarity yourself and apply it into your own lives.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to post about it because I think everybody will benefit from learning from that book. All right. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you?
For sure. They can head to my Instagram, which is life_above_0. That's what my coaching practice and my book's called. Or you can just go to my website, which is www.lifeabove0.com.au, and you'll find the book linked on both platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for taking the time to share your amazing advice for us on how we can create healthier mindsets. It's such an important thing to have. It can have such an impact on our lives. So I know it's going to help many tuning in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. It was so much fun.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.